Yeah, let's kick it off. I'm excited for today, that's for sure. When this was on the calendar a few weeks back, I was super excited. So I've got my beautiful wife, Michelle, with me here today.
Hello.
And we are really blessed today. I've been wanting Jeff to do this for a long time. So Jeff and Lynn, as you guys know, most of you guys know, we've been great friends for 15 years and been real estate obsessed for a long time. And about a year and a half ago, well, a little bit over a year and a half ago, I met with Jeff Lynn and Matt Ashby that we have on the call today, and introduced me to EXP and completely changed my real estate path. And one of the greatest things that I've taken from working with Jeff and Lynn is how Jeff does his listing presentations and how he works with sellers. And it's a whole different vibe and a whole different feeling. And it's actually just taken some nuggets and changing how I do things. It's helped me with listings, helped me with sellers. And it's really unique. So I think anybody, whether you're brand new in the industry or you've been doing it for decades, this is going to be a real treat to enhance your business. So I'm super excited for Jeff and Lynn today, or Jeff, I'm sorry, Lynn. I know you're gonna observe today, and then also immediately following, we've got Matt Ashby on, and I am super stoked about that. We haven't seen Matt in a long time, but Matt is a huge reason why I'm a part of EXP, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So thanks for being our instructor today, Jeff, and I'm excited for it.
You got it. This is something I've had to kind of work on for a little while. So let me just start. Let's rip into it because we don't want to keep you very long, and I want to share my screen. Share. It's like I've never done this before. Can you see my slide?
Yep, sure can.
Awesome. Okay, guys, so this is a little bit different because I'm not a presenter. I don't have a training program for this. I really had to do some thinking on how to write out what I just naturally do. And so some of the agents on the team, we've been in trainings before. You've heard bits and pieces of this. And I have this call titled the best listing presentation isn't a presentation. And you'll understand why as I kind of get into it. In fact, it might almost seem like too easy or too simple that it can't possibly work. But as we move forward in here, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So let me see if I can get my little clicker thing to work here. So DL, I think you're on the call, DL. DL messaged me about a month ago and said, hey, I've got a really good book that you should read. In fact, I think his text message said something to the effect, it's your method to a T. It's called Ninja Selling. Many of you may have already read it or seen it. I hadn't. However, I had it in my Audible library. I mean, I've got a couple 100+ books in my Audible library. So since DL brought it up, I said, okay, I might as well listen to this. And I stole this line from that. It says, the pitch is that there is no pitch. And that really kind of summed up what I do. I don't even call it a listing presentation because I don't present. I go on a consultation. Many of you might do the same. So as you listen to this, this is the way I do things, right? Everybody has their own style, their own personality, their own methods. I'm hoping you get one or two little nuggets from this that you could either implement to what you already do. Some of you, like Eric, might just totally throw away what you were doing before and adopt a whole new method because it resonates more with your personality. And it's all about relationships. So here's what we can expect that I'm going to go over today, because this isn't an all-encompassing training, right? So what I'm not going to cover is we're not going to talk about how to even get the leads, how to convert them to an appointment, okay? That's a whole nother training. We've done many trainings on lead generation and sources to actually find the sellers. But what I'm going to talk about is when you show up to the consultation. Okay, that's where we're going to start. And we're going to kind of try and keep this in that little nutshell. So there's several components to what I'm going to go over. And it's the introduction, meaning the introduction to the seller. setting proper expectations. There's questions you should ask, and then there's also things that you should talk about, but there's also things you shouldn't talk about on a consultation. So there's a flow to the consultation, okay? And it's even important to talk with your seller what happens after the consultation. What are those next steps, okay? So that's kind of what I'm gonna go over. And I wanna start off by looking at just a quick example of where I'm gonna lead into. So when I go on a consultation, like I said, it's all relationship based. I'm going there to build rapport. I'm going there to build a relationship. And as I get into what I don't do, it might be contrarian to what most of you think of as the point of a listing consultation or presentation, but hopefully you'll understand why I do it that way. So one of the things we talk about a lot is prepping the home for sale. And so I'm going to show you some before and after pictures of a listing. Okay, this listing I sold, but it had been listed before a few years ago. And at that point, it was overpriced. It was overpriced. It didn't sell after sitting on the market for 6 months. And I'm going to show you some of the reasons why I think not enough eyeballs got on it. For one, when it's overpriced, like some sellers in our market right now, they just think they can just list it at whatever they want and buyers are going to beat down their door. Even though the inventory is low, that's not the case on a mismarked property. So with our approach, we got them to do some work on the property and prepare and merchandise the home. It's a product that we're selling, right? So I talk to my sellers a certain way, and they spend a little bit of money and some time, but that inconvenience turns into profit. Okay, so they were a little over $10,000 that they put in. They painted a lot of the house for me, and you'll see why from the pictures. They put in some new hardware, some faucets in the bathroom and in the kitchen, countertops, some things like that. So we sold it the first weekend for $675. Okay, here's some things I want you to kind of consider, because this is a conversation that happens with the seller as I'm walking through their home, explaining to them what I want a buyer to see. Okay, and we'll talk about how buyers buy emotionally, right? They have to get emotionally drawn into that property from our first online showing. So it has to be presented properly. So it makes that list of homes that they're going to go see. So there's nothing wrong with this living room right here, but you'll see the difference in my picture that I presented to the market. There's a lot of furniture going on here, right? So this is what we presented to the market versus what you just saw. More open, lighter walls, got rid of some of the furniture, added some smaller accents. Here's their kitchen. Nothing wrong with this kitchen either. I mean, that's a fine kitchen. It's clean, it's in good order. But again, you can tell it's 20 years old, right? So by putting on new countertops and painting the cabinetry and putting on some new poles, we really dressed up this kitchen. Even though we didn't do the flooring and the tile, you can see that's still kind of dated. But you can also see that it just shows better. It makes it feel like a newer product. This is another picture that was on the old listing, the one that didn't sell. I mean, the first thing you notice is the plant, right? And again, it doesn't look like this house is run down or neglected in any way, but it really doesn't speak to you either. So when we just get a different angle and show the size of the room a little bit and a little bit newer and updated painting, it makes a big difference. Here's another picture of that living room. Again, does that look like a great entertaining spot that you're going to have friends over and watch the game? And it looks kind of tight and cramped, right? This is the same living room, but you can see how different that looks. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on these pictures, but you can see that paint, decluttering, a little bit of effort changes the product dramatically that we're putting on the market. And we want our sellers to know that we're invested in the process. It's not just, hey, the inventory is low, I'm here to get a listing, sell with me, my brokerage is great, I'm great, and we're gonna get your house sold. There's a strategic process to get this done properly and get them the most money. So for instance, look at the master bedroom. When we were walking through the house doing our consultation, they mentioned to me that they were going to be getting rid of this furniture. And I said, do it now. If you're going to be getting rid of that furniture, let's get rid of it. And they said, yeah, we're going to buy a new set for our new house. So this is the master bedroom that we presented to market. You can tell that's a big difference from this room. You don't really even notice the room, right? Because of all the furniture. So again, it feels like a newer house. And I really like the transformation in the master bath too, because again, it's dark, the color, there's nothing wrong with the color scheme if you like that, but it doesn't really invoke anything, right? When you look at that picture, but this one does. This is the same bathroom with countertops and paint and the faucets. Come on, somebody give me a yip yip. So,
Those are awesome. It's amazing. What a difference.
Yeah, I love it.
okay,
Huge
awesome.
transformation.
Just want to make sure you guys are watching here. I don't have all your beautiful faces up because I got my PowerPoint in front of me. So let me give you a little bit of an introduction. How this kind of came about for me. And again, this works for me. You may do things that are similar already, and that's awesome. I actually found what did work for me and my personality. And I found how to relate to the sellers and be my authentic self. And that's when everything changed, because when I got my license, I had already been investing in real estate for 20 years. I knew how to do investing, and I knew how to go to a seller and help them get what they wanted with me as the buyer, right? So a whole different mindset to help them, or to go in there as a realtor. So the listing presentations that are taught didn't work for me and my personality. My opinion, realtors, they sell homes, but they also sell themselves, right? Most listing presentations, and as I was with Keller Williams back then, and I'd be in the office and I would see people putting together their packets, right? Their presentations on the spiral bound notebooks and the pictures of the market stats, but also the brokerage stats and you know, all about Keller Williams, and then all about them, and then the websites they post on and how they do their marketing. And it was all about them. And it just did not resonate with me. And then when I made the connection as an investor, I'm going into the home, and a lot of investors are, and say, you've got a problem. I mean, not all sellers have a problem, but their situation is they have a house to sell, right? How can you help them accomplish that? As an investor, I would go into the homes and talk to the potential sellers a whole different way. It was never about me. It was all questions. And so when I learned that and applied that to the real estate, it made me kind of compare it to a for sale by owner. When realtors call for sale by owners, they're calling to get the listing, right? So as an investor, when I wasn't a realtor, when I would call a for sale by owner, almost the first question out of their mouth was asking me if I was a realtor. And when I said no, you could almost hear the sigh through the phone. It was just like, oh, good. I don't need another call from a realtor. In their mind, they're listing it and selling it by themselves for a reason, okay? So when they said, or when they allowed themselves to relax, then I could set up a meeting and go meet with them and build that rapport, ask them exactly what they wanted, and oftentimes find a way to give it to them in a manner that they hadn't even thought of. As you know, sometimes we do lease options, seller financing, contract for deed, and sometimes it's quick cash. There's a lot of different ways to satisfy why that for sale by owner is still in their house. So I fortunately was able to apply that to being a realtor on my listing presentations. Now, this one quote sums it up, okay? You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help other people get what they want. And it's so true. And as I go through kind of like the introduction and the process of meeting that seller and going through their home, there's no doubt in their mind that I'm looking to get the best outcome for them. There's no commission breath. There's no fear of losing the sale. There's none of the strategies or tactics that a lot of realtors use. And I come off being that breath of fresh air again. It's different. And I've gotten that feedback. So here's some things. I'm going to talk a little bit about mindset, right? Here's some things that you should just have as your mindset as you go to an appointment, okay? You whispering to me? Okay, so this appointment is a consultation. It's a conversation. You're there to build a rapport. It's not a presentation. Just think of the word presentation. You're presenting something. You're telling them something, when this should be a discovery meeting. You're going to go in there and I'm going to give you some questions to ask. Now, keep in mind as I go through this, obviously it's like, you don't have to do it exactly the way I do it. In fact, you might split things up a little bit. And as I explain it, you'll understand why. Meaning, my only goal when I'm on the phone with a seller is to set an appointment to go meet them in person. I don't do a whole lot of talking if I don't need to on the phone because I want to be face to face. Okay. So as you think about the mindset, you want to stay detached from the outcome. I mentioned commission breath because that's kind of like a tag phrase, or I guess something in the industry that people talk about when there's desperation involved. Okay. Whether you're a new agent or a seasoned agent, if you're there and you're just hoping you can get this contract signed and you can get the sale, there's an energy involved there that comes across to the seller, and it kind of puts up a bar. But when you're completely detached, you're just going to let the process dictate the outcome, then you're just going to be able to have a better relationship with that seller. We're going to mention about complimenting the home, the neighborhood, just anything. It's just part of building that rapport. But we'll start with the introduction. Now, again, the introduction could be on the phone. I like to do it in person. So when I'm talking to them and they've decided they want to sell their house, I'm saying, well, when can we get together? The first thing I need to do is see the house and make sure we're a good match to work together. What that kind of tells them is I'm not really chasing them. They get to decide if they want to work with me, but I also get to decide if I want to work with them. So I had to kind of think about what I just do and come up with a sample script for you guys, something that you could follow and say, okay, that makes sense. Say something like this. So when you first meet the person at the door, you're saying, hey, you must be Eric. How's it going? You say something to say, how you doing? How's it going? And if their kids come to the door, and this is like, I don't know what it is with me and kids. I love kids and it comes across when I see kids, but when they run to the door with mom or dad or whatever, and you give them attention, it's a great icebreaker. When you're standing at their door, you haven't even introduced yourself yet, and you're leaning down to the little guy and saying, hey, and what's your name? So relax when you go to the door. I think a lot of agents are too rigid and they've got this agenda and they got to rip it. It's a business, right? They want to get to the point, but you've got to build those relationships first. And then before I even introduce myself, I want to make sure that I say something complimentary to them. Here's a couple suggestions. You know, the home is beautiful, or the neighborhood is just awesome. I love homes in cul-de-sacs. Maybe it's a nice big lot, whatever it is. Maybe the landscaping is super, super sharp. And if they did it themselves, you know, all of a sudden now you're recognizing something that they've done and giving them credit for it. And then I'm saying, oh, I'm Jeff. Thanks for inviting me to your home. And I introduce myself as I come into the home. Don't start with, think of the alternative, okay? You go to somebody's house, they open the door, and you're immediately like, hey, I'm Jeff with eXp Realty. We talked a couple of days ago, and you're going right into your pitch. You're from the first second making it about you. So I encourage you to flip that and always, introduce them or confirm their name and have a little bit of small talk before you even introduce yourself, okay? So I'm going to give you, there's a couple of slides in here on more things to just kind of keep in mind as you're going through the consultation that we're going to talk about, the kind of the process that I go through, and I'm going to give you a couple more scripts. One of the things that you want to make sure that you're aware of, you're there to consult, not present. So that's going to mean a lot more questions and finding out their needs and offering a strategic solution to help them get their needs. So you're in a way, you're telling them who you are and what you do, but you're presenting it or consulting in a way that it's detailing the process without necessarily talking about yourself, if that makes sense. So you're there to solve problems, not to sell. You're there to, again, help them with their outcome. This is a couple of things that I'm going to mention next that most of you probably not agree with, but I never take comps to a listing consultation. I'm going to explain why. I also don't take a listing agreement. So I can't see all your faces and any expressions you're having right now. It's like, well, what's that? That's the point, right? What? Like Lynn always takes. Who is that?
That was me. I'm like, what?
Oh.
No comps, no listing agreement? What are you doing there?
A listing agreement. So yeah, take this for what it is. It works for me. Okay. You need to determine if you and the seller are a good match to work together. I'm going to give you kind of a little a script to help you do that. But what you're doing is you're setting yourself apart, and you'll be able to tell from my script, there's some strategic design to why I started doing it that way, because I'm bringing up what you all are doing and letting them know up front, that's not why I'm here. I want to be different. I want to be placed in a different category. Okay. So here's an example of a script that you could use after your introductions, right? After your introductions, when you go in, you've introduced yourself, you're now in their home. You're going to say something like this. I'll say, hey, Eric, just so you know, I didn't show up here today with comps. I've never figured out why realtors can show up to someone's home with a predetermined price on what they think it should sell for, and they haven't even seen the home yet. It doesn't make sense to me. So right off the bat, if you were there yesterday on a listing presentation, they didn't hire you because I'm here today, right? And 9 out of 10 or more agents are going to show up with those pre-printed comps, and they're going to be going, And if they haven't had a listing presentation from somebody else, and maybe they got another one later that night or tomorrow that they're going to honor that appointment, they're going to be thinking of this comment when that person pulls out their comps. Okay. It's like, wow, it does seem a little bit odd. How are they coming up with a price? Because there's more to a home than just the size and the bedroom count and the square footage and the lots. Okay. And we're going to talk about that. So I'll go on to say, we haven't even determined what we're selling yet. And so I'm going to kind of set the expectations of what our consultation is going to be, because I'm going to bring it up. I say, are we selling exactly the way it is today? Are we not touching a thing? This is as is, this is what we're selling. That's one potential outcome, right? Or are we going to be strategic in raising the perceived value in the eyes of a buyer and maximize your return on an investment? What that shows them is I have a plan. There are things we can do to a home to raise its value. And I use the word perceived a lot too, because dollar for dollar, it really doesn't, right? You're not going to spend, $2,000 and get $2,000 in return. I'm not a big advocate of the charts and graphs that are out there that give you a percentage of return on remodeling a home, because buyers don't buy that way, especially in this market, right? If they have to do it, and I'm going to talk more about this later, but if a buyer has to upgrade the property, the cost is double, right? What it truly is. But if they don't have to do it, the value is double. So this is actually the dialogue I'm having with the seller as we're walking through the property, because there's a purpose to all of this stuff, okay? And so then I just mentioned, this is part of what I want to talk about as we walk around your home. So I also already told you guys this, but part of that script and lead in, and it's almost like a side note, right? I'm like, and I didn't bring a listing agreement with me today either. We don't even know if we're a good match to work with one another. So I wouldn't expect either one of us to make such an important decision on our first meeting. We're here to kind of get to know each other. So that sentence right there is important to me, because I haven't decided if I want to work with them as well. And what is their impression of most real estate agents? They just want the commission. They just want the sale. They want to get the contract signed. It's about them. There's a reason why realtors have this impression in the minds of the general public, is because of the way they come across. And I want to be the exact opposite. And so I'll also add in there, and I love this one because it happens from most scripts that people are taught. I'll flat out say, I'm certainly not going to sit at your kitchen table and do all the talking and tell you how great my brokerage is, how great I am. And then I'm going to slide a contract and a pen in front of you and say, do the right thing, sign the contract. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Okay, that is an exact script that Tom Ferry and some of the other people teach to get that signed. And I do that movement too. It's like, I'm not going to slide a contract in front of you, because either they're recognizing it from somebody else they met with, that they didn't sign the contract and they really didn't like that. Whoa, hey, we just met, right? Now, granted, there's a lot of you agents that are really good at doing that type of a script and a presentation. And damn, that seller wants to move ahead with you right there, and they sign that contract. I prefer a two-step presentation. I don't have any expectations of leaving with the listing agreement on my first visit. I'm only there to build rapport and build on that relationship. So again, and I've gotten feedback from people that have hired me that they almost laughed when the other agent came and did exactly this, because I had already had this dialogue with them. And it's kind of like, kind of funny, huh? So let's move on here. You guys can, I talk, tend, and I don't take a breath or pause, but if somebody wants to ask a question about what I'm talking about, obviously we can double back at the end, but if you want to interrupt me, you got to make some noise.
Jeff, I want to say I've done a similar strategy as well as what you've done it, and it works almost every single time. You pretty much play the agent against themselves, and at that point, you've technically won with the seller or the buyer at that point, right? So, and I will say too, I'm kind of a two-step process as well. I don't technically bring a listing presentation, to sign right then. I just, there's a lot of similarities in what you do and what I've done. So it's kind of making me laugh. I love it because it works 100%. So I thought I was the only one, but I guess I'm not.
No, I love it, Jason. I tend to think I'm the only one that does things that I like.
Well, it's good to know it works as well. So.
No, good on you, Jason. I mean, it takes a minute for some agents to kind of figure that out, right? Because of the trainings that are produced for agents. And that's what I was just inundated with when I got my license. It's like, you need to go to this class, you need to take this training, you need bold, you need this, all these things telling me how to be robotic in my approach, just like everybody else is doing. Looks like there's a chat up here. Give me one sec. Mike's, DL's just kind of saying, he said he didn't have a mic connected, but this is gold. So that's awesome. Thanks, DL. So those two scripts that I gave you are kind of like the introductions, right? After I've introduced myself, I tell them what I'm not there to do. You can almost physically see them relax. I want you to try it. If you're used to doing it the other way, just try it. It can't hurt anything because consider it practice. But when you go in there and you remove the expectations that they had about what this meeting was going to be, and you flip it upside down and you said, I don't have a predetermined price for your home. I didn't even bring a listing agreement. We got to make sure that we're a good match to work together before we even get to that stage, right? You'll be amazed where the conversation goes from there. So to get started though, okay, why are you here? You're still standing in the foyer of their home. So you got to get started. And so this is how I do it. I just say something like, with your permission, I lost my clicker again. It's all right. Okay. So again, I had to write this out. It's like, what do I say? And so I'm just going to read it because I can just do it without writing it out. But this is something for you guys to consider and kind of make your own. Let's take a tour of the home. You can point out any unique upgrades and changes that you've done to the home, and we'll simply have a conversation along the way. And if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you some questions, and I'm going to come back to this. Okay, guys, but because my job is to help you get the results that matter most to you. I'm also going to do my best to make sure that you know all your options, or what all your options are. Now, this next line is, I'm sure I'm the only one that ever uses it because it's just what happens. But you might want to adopt why when I say, in fact, I have a reputation in my office for talking people out of selling their home. And then I just kind of brush that off and I say, we'll get back to that later. So why don't you show me around? Do you want to walk around the outside first, or should we start right here? Now, I'll get to the point about talking people out of selling their homes, but just bringing that up and then setting it aside, again, I'm differentiating myself. What realtor shows up to their home and talks about selling the home? And they're, well, what do you mean? I want to sell my home, right? But maybe I know options that can help them with their goals and what they're doing after they sell a home that maybe they hadn't considered yet. And we'll talk a little bit about what some of those things are. So I'm going to give you some questions to ask. Now, this is the part I sort of come back to because some of you will do this on the phone. Hey, tell me about yourself. Why are you selling? Here's a list of questions, right? I'll just click and open these up. I like to do them in person. I like to start conversation, and I like to be able to expound on those once we've met, right? If I'm on the phone, there's no eye contact. There's no feel for what the person is like as far as sincerity. They can't get really a good impression of me except for my fluctuation of my tone on the phone, right? So I like to, like I said before, I like to just get right to the appointment. The first thing I got to do is come and see your house naturally if you want to sell it, and let's make sure we're a good match to work together. Boom, when's a good time for you? That's my phone call. This all happens in person. You might want to do it on the phone. If you decide not to, and let's say let's say maybe, I know we got a lot of newer agents on the call, so you haven't done this enough to where it just flows naturally. You're going to be carrying around a notebook like this anyway, and you're going to be showing them that you're professional, and you're going to be taking notes about the home, about their answers to your questions. You're going to have something in front of you anyway. There's no reason why you couldn't have a cheat sheet and a list of questions already on your notebook to make sure you cover the basis and get those in. Because a lot of people will actually print out a form, right? A seller intake form. When you're on the phone with the seller, you're going to ask them these questions. You're going to write down their answers so that you don't rely on your memory. But you can do that in person too. And if you want to have that list of questions written down, then you certainly can do that. So these questions kind of dictate the conversation, okay? I don't think we need to go through all of those right now. I want to keep moving along. Okay, so based on their questions, there's going to be some talking points, and I think I got another script for you, I think. You want to talk about what a buyer will love about the home. Again, people selling their home, they've got already an emotional attachment to it. Make sure you acknowledge that. I mean, if they've done a great job on there's no deferred maintenance or whatever, point those things out, right? Obvious defects in the home also need to be pointed out, okay? And this is part of your strategic process to get their home sold for top dollar, because during that conversation, when you're pointing out, you're not being rude by pointing out, they know that that maintenance hasn't been done on their home. We all have punch lists. Ask Lynn, she's got a list this long my house of things that I should do. Now, if I was selling my house, I would be selling a different product that I'm comfortable living in, right? And it's okay to acknowledge that with the seller. It's okay to let them know that we now need to merchandise this product or stage it if it's vacant, right? But I call it merchandising because think of any store you go to, right? The shelves are faced, the clothing hangers are lined up in order, things are sized and colored correctly or whatever. And another thing that I talk to them about is just decluttering. They're moving anyway. They might as well start packing stuff up. And this is a line I use a lot to help them kind of get it. I say, you need to picture a model home. You've gone into model homes. Everybody that's selling their homes, they've looked at pictures online, either to look for a house that they're going to buy, or they're looking at other properties online to see what they think theirs might sell for. If this one's selling for X, mine might sell for this or whatever. So they're familiar with what we're talking about when we're saying prepare a home for sale, okay? So when they think model home, you know nobody lives there. And that's literally a line I use. I want people to walk in this home and wonder if anybody lives here. Because we're selling the home, not your stuff. Does that make sense? And it makes it easy for me to say, you know, you're moving, start packing up your shit. You know, we all have excess in our homes because that's where we store our stuff. But if you're selling the home and you want to present that product, then you can start packing up your stuff. Okay. I think I'm going to come back to that here in a minute, but let's look at a couple other before and after pictures. Our seller, you're at the consultation and you're verbally kind of talking about what you want to present to market. So in a way, without saying me or whatever, it's like they've seen the pictures of the homes on the iPhone that's sideways and there's no lighting and they can barely see the size of the room or all the clutter. I mean, we don't stage a home to look lived in, right? We don't put laundry in the basket and some folded towels up in the laundry room just so that you can tell somebody lives here. We remove all of that stuff. So when they think like a model home, they're going to already have examples in their mind of what they've seen and go, yeah, I really didn't like that. I wanted to see what the master bath looked like. And all they showed me was a shower curtain, you know, and I really couldn't see the master bedroom because of all that furniture, those kind of things. They've seen it before. So by pointing out what doesn't work, it's the same way with pointing out what doesn't work for me that other realtors do. I'm not pointing the other fingers and say other realtors aren't good or they don't do a good job, but kind of like sideways, I'm saying I don't do those things. Those things don't work with my model, my design. And sellers want somebody to walk them through the process that knows what they're doing. And so when you're saying this is the way I do things, you're accomplishing that. So let's take some pictures real quick. Basically, the stats on the home was listed twice right before I got the listing. The first agent listed it at $689,999. and it was way above market for what they listed. Okay, they had no strategy, and this was an example where they had vertical pictures, poorly lit. They just didn't present a good product to market, and it was overpriced. And they fired that agent after only 2 weeks. They probably didn't even get any calls based on what they presented. So the second agent must have said, "Oh wow, if it didn't sell at $689, I can sell it for $725." Way above market for this home when this sold. He had no strategy as well. And I'm going to show you his pictures, okay, versus ours, because we're, like I said, we're presenting a product to the market. That's our first showing. That's a conversation you're having with the seller. That's our first showing. I want as many eyeballs on your home as possible. I need to create competition, okay? This listing was withdrawn after 90 days. Here's some before and after pictures. Hey guys, have a seat. That's the exterior of the home. This is my exterior of the home. This one's not that important. I'm just showing you the property. Obviously, it's a different season as well. But here's the entryway. You can tell from the lighting, they weren't professional photos, poor resolution. And those walls, right? They're not really as appealing as they used to be when people were taking classes and learning how to faux paint. So I wanted to change those. So here's my entryway. Same light fixtures. I wanted to replace the light fixtures, but personal reasons with this particular seller's situation and what we had to work through didn't allow to do everything I wanted to do, but we nailed some things. So as you know, most homes, when you first walk in the entry door, there's a office or a sitting room right on the front side of the front of the house, right? This is what the previous listing at 729 presented as their living room. Like I said, we got them to paint. We moved some of their own furniture around. So when I talk to them about merchandising their home, it could be, hey, we're just going to present what you have in the best light possible, or we may supplement some other staging items to go along with what you have, right? But in a lot of cases, we're removing things or moving them around in the house. This is another room where you can see I pulled that piano from and put it in the front room. And then this is that same room that we presented. One thing I would have liked to have done in the kitchen is paint the cabinets, but just as far as resolution from the pictures, you can see that the one wasn't really that appealing. And so going back to that one, so if I would have been able to put a stainless steel fridge in there and paint the cabinets white, that would look like a newer upgraded kitchen, right? And it would have been a little bit more appealing to more buyers, and it would feel more updated instead of something that, you know, maybe people don't want an older home, and this has that feeling. How's this for a picture of the living room? Half of the shot is the dining table, and it doesn't look like there's much room to entertain or walk around in that picture, but this is the same living room, much bigger, right? Here's the sitting area. Obviously they got a Christmas tree in there, and I didn't list it at Christmas time, so that was gone. But again, that makes me a little claustrophobic, right? It's a little cramped in there. This is the same living room. Here's another angle of the living room to the kitchen. There's ours. And again, the bathroom, right? There's nothing wrong with this bathroom. The color scheme doesn't work with today's preferences. So all we did is kind of dressed up the closet a little bit and painted and brightened up that bathroom quite a bit. Okay, sorry, I got to rip along here. I knew I wouldn't be able to do this in 45 minutes. Here's some more talking points for you. And I can send this to you guys too, if you want to kind of look back at those scripts or the questions and the talking points and even the pictures or whatever. I'm happy to share this slide deck with you. So again, more mindset stuff. When you go, I want you in your mind to act as if you already have the listing. Your verbiage is going to be different. The way you talk to the seller, when you're saying this is what we're going to do versus like, hey, you know, if you decide to go with me and my company or my brokerage, then we will do this. I just kind of make that assumption, you know, this is what we do next. Sellers want to be guided through the process. They want somebody that's going to take control. So take control. Let them tell you that you're moving too fast and you're making assumptions. Because one of those things I try and do before I even leave the home is set up a design consultation with my stagers. So as I'm walking through the home, I'm pointing things out that I know of, but I'm relying on my team. I'm relying on my professionals. So I'm going to pay for That's just part of what I do. I'm going to send my designer here, go through each room, room by room, and make you a punch list, what to remove, what to add, what to pack up, how to present that. I mean, they're the merchandising specialists, right? They stage homes for a living. So I'm going to pull in an expert that's going to go through the house with them and give them a to-do list. Okay. So I'm talking about that. I want them to understand that buyers buy with emotion. In fact, some of my more analytical buyers, I have to give them permission to use emotion. This is a house you're going to raise your kids in, right? You have to love the yard. You have to feel something about the neighborhood. It has to be right for you. It can't just be about the numbers. Like when I'm buying a rental property, I don't give a shit about that other stuff. It is all about the numbers. But when a buyer's buying a home to live in, it's different. So we got to talk that way with our clients. And what that also shows is you work with buyers too. I didn't just make all this stuff up. When I talk about making your home like a model home, and I want buyers to wonder if anybody lives there, it's because of my observation with buyers that walk over to the fridge and look in the fridge to see if there's any food, or they're opening cupboards or the pantries to see what's in there. Is like, is somebody living here, or is this a vacant home? That's the perception I want to put, or the product I want to put to market. And so by observing the way buyers are emotional and they make their decisions and they got to have this house, that's what I want to do to the seller's house. And it just makes sense. Okay. Sellers, again, on the opposite side, you want to help them remove the emotion out of it. Now it's all about me helping you get the highest return. So I literally will say, I mentioned this before, it says, you're moving, start packing. You know, I don't care if you order those pack rat pods or a storage unit, or if you have a yard sale or whatever, but you already know, just like my client that wanted to get rid of that bedroom set and buy a new one, they already know what they want to get rid of. So let's just get it going. And then I reiterate, think like a model home. I want them to think, does anybody live here? And I always, Brian, going back to what I said in the beginning when I was introducing myself, I might just talk you out of selling the home. This comes up based on the questions that you're asking and the answers that they're giving you based on why are you selling, where are you moving to, when do you have to move, all that kind of stuff. So when somebody makes a decision, they need to know what they're saying no to. Okay. So I come from an investment background. I'll give you a quick real life example. I went on a listing consultation to a previous client and I asked him, well, why are you selling this home? And he says, well, it's bigger than what we need. And we want to move into a smaller home so we can save money to buy a rental property. So you might guess what I did. I said, well, you already own this one. It could be your rental property. If you want to move into something smaller and save some money, let's get somebody else to make this payment. Just by suggesting that, they hadn't even thought of that. For one, they had like a 3% loan on the property because they had lived there a couple of years and bought it as an owner occupant. So they were going to cash flow quite well on that property by making that their rental property. All we had to do is get a tenant in place and a lease when they went under contract to buy their smaller home, which they did. And we were able to count 75% of that rental income towards their purchase of the next house. Again, the average seller may not know that that's an option. So whether they do it or not, you get credit for bringing it up, right? Another thing I like to bring up, let's say the home's in Lehigh. You ask a question like, Shante, Nate, you guys in other states, and Matt up in Canada, Lehigh's just a booming city right now, right here by Draper. And when you ask them, it's like, okay, you've got this beautiful home in Lehigh. Would we argue over the fact that this home's probably going to be worth more next year in Lehigh? Maybe even 2 years from now, with the trajectory we're on, with the low inventory, do you think that's still going to appreciate over the next couple of years? You know, if they're in that type of an area, it's going to be 100% of the time. Well, yeah. Well, have you considered maybe holding on to it? If you're selling it and you're going to net a certain amount of dollar amount now, what if you sold it next year or the year after and netted more money? And well, how would I do that? Okay, they haven't thought of that. So again, giving them options, whether they take those options or not, is going to take your conversation in a direction to where you truly are trying to get the outcome that's best for them by suggesting maybe that they don't sell the house, right? Maybe they keep it. Maybe they sell it in 2 years from now. Some sellers don't understand that at least today it's still in place, that they get a tax exemption from selling their home even after they move out. most of them realize you have to live there 2 years to be exempt from your capital gains on a property when you sell it. But I found a lot of them don't realize that it's 2 of the previous 5. So you can move out up to 3 years and still not owe any property tax when you sell that home. So that now gives them options, okay? And that's what I want to do. I want to be their advocate. I want to be there. I'm there to consult. I want to give them options. And again, I'm bonding through the whole time. So I don't go into a lot about my team, just when it's appropriate. You mentioned those professionals that you work with. I'm going to skip by this. We don't need to talk a lot about that. But they're going to realize that you have a specific strategy. Okay, you haven't even talked price yet. You haven't even talked commission yet, but they're learning that you have a plan. You're talking to them about preparing their home for market and how that's going to look. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to schedule a design consultation. We're going to bring in an expert to help you with a list. People love to-do lists, right? It's not like, hey, I want you to declutter. That's too vague. But when they have a checklist room by room on what to do, on how to prepare that, you got to do it if you're not doing that. Eric, you can back me up on this. I know you have adopted that strategy and you do that with your listing clients, and they love it. They love it. So I talk a lot about punch lists too with my sellers. We want to eliminate the punch list if possible. Now, granted, some sellers are in a totally different situation. So I've got kind of like a specific type of seller in mind that we're doing this with. For instance, I was on the phone with one of my mentees last night. They're selling their home because mom passed away. The hoarder's sister is living in the house and won't move. They need to get rid of it. They're not going to want to spend a lot of effort and be inconvenienced to get top dollar. This is a thorn in their life right now that they just need to move on from. So none of this stuff that we're talking about is going to come up with them. So obviously, you know, be particular about who you're talking to and what their needs are, and ask those questions on what goal they want to accomplish so you can help them with their goal, not yours. Because I would never try and convince somebody in that situation that we need to go through all this. I mean, they got enough other things to think about, right? With just losing their mom, than prepping a house for market. Okay. So as I go through this, they're realizing that a punch list for a buyer, and again, I'm mentioning my experience with buyers. When I go through somebody's house, if they're making notes on the things they need to do if they buy this house and they got to number 3, 4, or 5, inevitably they're going to say, let's keep looking. Let's move on. Let's go see some more houses. But if they go through a house and we've already eliminated that punch list for them, they're going to say, oh my gosh, this is the nicest one I've seen in this price range, and I got to have it. That's that fear of loss and that competition we want to create. So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to skip past the rest of these, but other professionals that obviously we might use. I will mention the 4th one up from the bottom there, because this is particular for me. And again, it goes to show them that I have a plan and a strategy, and the data shows me what works well for them. I'm not just haphazardly throwing their house on the MLS. And that is, I always go live with my listings on Thursday afternoon. Why? Because the data will show that more buyers look at properties on Friday afternoon and Saturday. I want mine to be brand new, hot, 0 to 1 days on the market, and they got to go get in before somebody snatches it up. They can't wait till Monday. They can't wait till Tuesday. And my goal, and I do outline this to my sellers, my goal is to have multiple offers the first weekend. If we don't, then we missed the mark. And that's part of the pricing strategy that I go over with them as well. So, sorry, I got to move quick here, guys, but I want you to bring up something else when you're on a listing consultation that I think a lot of agents don't think of to bring up on a listing consultation because they don't have the listing. And that's what happens once you do get an offer. A lot of sellers in this market are concerned about where are they going to go. If I sell my house, can I find another one? They have certain anxiety about selling their home that you need to bring up and you need to address to show them that you're not just listing their house, and it doesn't end with the listing. It starts with the offer, right? You're going to help them get the product on the market and get those offers, but you've got a process after that as well. So we talk about the negotiations that are going to come up. Just because they received an offer doesn't mean we can't counteroffer them, and we're going to try and find a win-win solution for both of them. The different things that we talk about are earnest money. Is some of it non-refundable? The inclusions and exclusions. I'll give you one tip right here on the exclusions. And this is part of my conversation with the seller, I always exclude the refrigerator, even if they say they don't want it. Well, I'm going to buy a new one. I don't even want it. Just to include it. It's like, no, I'm going to exclude it. And this is why. They could have a beautiful home, but most buyers are going to find something that they're going to ask that seller to do or to fix or to provide. And if the refrigerator, 100% of my listings, I suggest that they exclude it from the listing, now gives me a bargaining chip. They don't want it anyway. But if they come back and they say, hey, we got a double tap breaker in the circuit breaker, that's not safe. We got to fix that. And we don't have a downspout on the hot water heater. Ooh, that's not safe. A few $100s in items, right? It's just inconvenience for my seller to have to now do that. And so when we go back to that buyer and say, how about you take care of all that stuff and we'll give you the fridge? 99% of the time it's like, let's get moving forward, okay? So we also want to let them know about appraisal concerns that we might come up with, right? Because I want to set a record in their subdivision for putting the nicest home on the market and sell it for the top square footage in that subdivision. And I'm not afraid to tell them that, but they have to agree with the market or the product that's going to bring that price, right? Or otherwise, now we're talking about a different pricing structure based on here's my suggestions. We certainly can't list it up here if we're putting this product on the market. So maybe we should be in this range. Deadlines, delayed possessions, people that need to go look for another home. This is a whole nother training, but short-term leasebacks work really well to let somebody stay in a home for 30 to 60 days after they sell it so that they can go find another one. Okay, I'm gonna go through this one really quick, but I do want you to see some pictures of a vacant home. How you doing? Good. Okay guys, I'm wrapping up. I'm trying to get to the end here as good as I can. It's already 1 o'clock. How did that happen? What's that? Yeah. So, okay, this was a rental unit for one of my clients. So the tenants moved out. And so I'm going to show you the pictures of what the house looked like when he bought it. And then what he did a lot of sweat equity to prepare it for market when he sold it. So he painted the outside of the house himself. I mean, not a huge change, but look at the lid of the carport, all the peeling paint, and you know, it just looks older. This looks like a newer home, doesn't it? Go through that kind of quick. Again, nothing wrong with this living room. It doesn't look like a neglected home, but it really doesn't like invoke any emotion either. It doesn't look like a great entertaining spot somewhere where you're going to have your family over. But this is what we put on the market. Okay. When we painted and we lightened up the home and we put in better furniture, it just looks like a totally different property, right? And I want buyers fighting over their home. That's the whole objective. And so somebody might say, oh, well, there's low inventory. We're going to get an offer anyway. Yeah, you are. But I'm going to get you the best offer because of what we're listing. There's a living room. Again, this kitchen, nothing horrible, but mostly what you see is the tabletop, right? This looks a little bit more inviting. You can actually see the living room from the kitchen. It looks a lot bigger, doesn't it? Another angle of the kitchen. That looks like a very small kitchen. Just by the angle and opening things up, it can appear a lot bigger. And this is just a bedroom. I mean, how many different ways can you show a bedroom? But when it's this dark and it has that much furniture in it, it looks a lot different than this bedroom. And it's the same bedroom. Okay. So next what we do is we're setting the expectation. So that's pretty much the consultation, walking through them, letting them know that we have a plan. This is what happens next. We're going to set up our design consultation. We've talked about potential repairs, potential improvements, but they need that also that guidance from the design consultation in order to get moving on that. And again, I just act as if we're going in that direction. So now I'm telling them what I'm going to do next because I didn't show up with comps. I didn't show up with a listing agreement. Now I can tell them since I've met them and we've had this conversation, now I can go look at the comparables. Now I can go and look at what has sold and what's on the market. Okay. And I'm going to mention what's more important than the sold comps in just a second. But I also let them know, hey, if we're not listing right away, because it's going to take a few weeks, maybe a month to get the house ready, I'm going to do all that again. Whatever I see is just a snapshot in time of what's going on in the market today. But if we're not listing today or next week, I'm going to do all this again. So I'm going to have a conversation with them about pricing. but let them know and open that door that we might be redoing this. And so that just, again, it goes to your credit as a professional that you're not going to stick with old data just because you did it once. You're going to, a lot of times I'll redo it the day we go active because, you know, new properties come on the market all the time. I like to schedule the design consultation before I even leave. I mentioned that. We're going to kind of discuss timing based on when they need to move, when they think they could be ready. They've got to, on nights and weekends, pack up their stuff and get a storage unit, whatever they're going to do. Maybe they got to do a yard sale. So we're already going to start talking timing on when we might schedule photographers because I want to go live on a Thursday. So we're literally picking, what's the first Thursday you think you could be ready? And then we're working backwards from that, okay? That's what I just mentioned. And then you got to commit to them when you're going to get back to them. It might be later that day, depending on when you met with them, or maybe the next day, but set an appointment to get back with them on pricing. That can be done in person. I do it a lot on the phone. Sometimes I do it on Zoom, but that's a whole nother consultation. And I'm going to go over the points of that briefly, because again, this is a whole nother training, but I know I'm trying. I'm almost done. Sorry, I'm getting the wrap it up signal all around me. So when you do your pricing strategy, guys, you're going to do the sold, you're going to do the under contract and the active. You're going to have a conversation with them that this isn't science. There is not a sales price for your home. There's a range, okay? The reason you're going to go over the actives is because when you list their home on the market, you've got competition. So it's comps versus competition, right? The comparables that have already sold aren't as relevant to me as what I'm listing against. And I'm sharing this with my sellers. We're either going to help them sell their house before us, or they're going to help us sell ours. Because when there's only so many available, which one's nicer? And buyers, as you all know, in this market, will pay for the nicer home. I mean, to the tunes of tens of thousands of dollars. So we're going to decide on the most compelling price point. Again, I'm not going to go into that, but it has a lot to do with their motivation. So we're going to bring in, again, those answers to their questions on what price we land on. And I always encourage them, no matter where we price it, I don't want a price drop. Okay. I just closed on a house for $545,000. The seller started at $725,000. I think he shot himself in the foot there by starting way too high. Maybe even if he would have started around $6, the home is certainly worth $6, but we got it for $545. But he started at $725. Those price drops in the end up hurting the seller. So we talk about that. So I'm giving them guidance and options. I don't tell them what I think we should list it at. A lot of them will say, well, what do you think? What do you think? And I said, well, it depends on your situation. I always have my sellers come up with the price point based on my data that I've given them on how that's going to reflect with their goals. Okay. So this is the end. I'm pretty sure. If you've gotten this far to where you're talking pricing with them, more times than not, they're ready to go. They're gonna say, so what happens next? If they don't, all I have to do is just ask them when they're ready to get the paperwork started so we can get this going. And a lot of times I haven't even talked about commissions yet. If they bring it up on my first consultation, I said, well, you'll see how that'll all wrap into the strategy as we move forward. And I move forward. I'm not embarrassed, or I have no problem being certain that I can charge my commission and I don't have to make any excuses for it. Most of the time it's 6%. I'm very direct. I charge 6%. But at this point, I've established a lot of value of what I'm going to do for that 6% and how all that works versus another agent that showed up with some comps and a listing agreement and just tried to get the contract signed and hasn't really even provided any value or built a relationship or any rapport yet. I've spent 2 or 3 hours with them at this point between the consultation and phone calls and pricing strategy. And that's the last slide. I knew I couldn't get, I know. Okay, I'm gonna look in the chat real quick and then we're gonna try and move forward. Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry, no Q&A.
That was amazing. That was excellent.
Well done, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
While you're looking at that chat, one thing that I love that I've heard you say to the seller is, my job is to sell your house twice, not just once. I sell to the new buyer, obviously, but I'm selling to the appraiser too, because I want to set the new benchmark for your neighborhood. And that's really what you do when you put the best the best house on the market, and you demand that highest price. And I love that you say that way, because it hits home.
Yeah, for sure. One of the questions in the chat that I just want to make a comment of, DL asked what percentage of the buyers decide to hire you right there during the consultation, and that is most of them. I'll give one example. I always tell them, hey, think about it, talk to your wife. We'll chat when I have pricing strategy for you. And I've told some of you in the Tuesday night training with the new agents this example, because it was more outward than just feedback that I got later on the process they went with. And that was, I was leaving the house after the consultation. I said, okay, you guys think about it. We're going to chat tomorrow. I'm calling you at 5 o'clock. We're going to go over pricing. I was in my car, and as we all do, first thing we do is look at the text messages we missed while we were in our consultation, and if anything needs to get addressed. And he came walking out. I hadn't even started the car yet, so I thought I had left something in the house. And I got out of my car and met him in the driveway, and I said, hey, what's up? And he says, hey, we want to get moving forward with you. I said, wow, that was fast. And he says, well, it didn't take much. As soon as you shut the door, I turned to my wife and I said, wasn't that different? So all he did is ask is, well, wasn't that different? And here's the cool thing about that one is her sister is an agent in another state and had referred one of her friends to them that they didn't hire because of my presentation versus the presentation that they had with her. And she did exactly what I told them I don't do. She showed up with comps. She had a price determined. She had a listing agreement all filled out. And anyway, so yeah, DL, a lot of them kind of do that. Anybody else? Or can, yeah, sorry, Matt, you're up. Wake up. Oh, look at all of you that's actually stayed on the call. Hi, guys.
I'm awake. What are you talking about?
I'm just
that was amazing, Jeff. I was taking notes. I was paying attention to the listing. Those pictures, oh my God. You look at some of those. If you're looking at a listing as we go through comparables with the clients, and you're looking at those look like two totally different homes, right? And when buyers go into that mindset of this is perfect, this is exactly how I want it, they're already at that level of where they want the house, and that's where you get those multiple buyers. So that was absolute fire. Well done, Jeff.
Awesome.